warn you. So I just wanted to quickly give everyone in this room and online a sense of, we know you've accomplished a lot, and you're all deeply, deeply invested in this issue, but what inspired you to follow the path that you've been on? Basically, why are you doing what you're doing, and how did you get there?
How much time do I have?
Let's keep it, let's keep it short, as short as you can.
Okay, perfect. So mine actually comes from a deeply personal story of mine. My children are victims of parental kidnapping. And for me, I was able to become a mother from afar through digital inclusion. And I realized that the internet was my pathway to become a mother in a different kind of way. It's not something I talk about often, it's not something I talk about publicly, and it's something that's become my life work, not just because it allows me to be a mother from afar. Don't worry, they're safe, they're healthy, they're happy, they're fine, I see them. But it's allowed me to take this really deeply personal tragedy and turn it into my superpower, whether that's at Microsoft connecting people to the internet so that they can realize their own superpowers, or to working on my PhD and realizing, how do we actually define digital inclusion? What does that actually mean? And how can we all come together as a community and define what does it mean to be a digitally inclusive society?
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. Zach?
The original inspiration behind starting Code Academy came from seeing this massive skills gap around the world between the innovation that's being created in the technology sector and massive unemployment amongst youth around the world, and kind of a general frustration with the fact that nobody was trying to solve that problem, from government to nonprofits. And so we decided building an easy, accessible way for anyone to participate in the digital economy, and hopefully not just find jobs, but create other solutions to tackle problems like youth unemployment was the way to solve the problem.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I do feel like that gap between the amazing innovation that's going on around the world and, poverty and unemployment is one theme that has brought a lot of people together for this event. And I am really grateful that we're getting to talk about it. Tracy?
I'm someone who has been very fortunate to grow up in Silicon Valley, and I was the child of two software engineers who built their own software company, and being in the Valley was always something that was kind of easy to do, to go into technology, to study math and science. Even with all the advantages that I had in the Bay Area and going to schools there, I felt a lot of headwinds as a woman in engineering. And when I was first in my studies and entering the industry, I didn't quite know what that was. I could feel that I was not necessarily as included as my male peers, but I didn't know what was the source of that. And as I engaged more with other women in the field, I started to see what the systemic problems were. And it was very eye-opening to me to see, even with all the advantages I had, how difficult it was to succeed in the tech sector. And it makes me think there must be so many other people who are so talented and would be so great in this industry, and they're being kept out. And so we talk a lot about inclusion. The flip side of that is that there are factors that are actively excluding people. We need to dismantle those. And also, being a software engineer and being on the inside of a number of startups that have built products, I've seen how the lack of diversity and inclusion in the workforce that are building these products has very real ramifications for the products that get built. So examples of things that are pretty obvious oversights. So when Apple launched HealthKit with iOS 8, where you can track all these things about your health and body, they left out period tracking, which is a very obvious use of quantified self and something that half the world population cares about. And I don't know for sure if there were no women on the team that was developing that, but it seems like a very obvious oversight. If there had been better gender diversity on that team, that they wouldn't have been such an obvious use case. And so there's a bit of a personal angle being a woman in engineering, and also just seeing what the ramifications are for the world, the lack of diversity and inclusion that drives me to do the work I do.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I think especially some of our opening messages did a really good job of hammering home that point that technology isn't going to be a force for social good unless it is inclusive of not just gender and race, but of people of different abilities, sexuality, everything. So I really do appreciate that. And just a reminder for folks watching online, please do send questions. I know we have a lot to unpack here, but Kelly, yeah, a couple of things about yourself that you can function now.
Yes, my motivation and inspiration, I guess, comes in twofold. One, my entry into STEM or technology, not your typical girl in STEM, I guess you could say, is I see that STEM is sometimes, we see it as a career path, but for me, I saw it as a means of innovation to solve a problem. I saw my work comes rooted in youth empowerment and leadership development, and I saw twofold. There's two types of kind of groups of youth. Your overachiever, actively involved in a lot of things, and then you have this other subgroup who is not yet involved, but is maybe looking, wants to, but just doesn't know how. And so you have this gap. And I saw in both elements, youth could gain skills through volunteering and extracurriculars, but there wasn't a way to tangibly track that and use it as a way to improve their employment or get them into school and things like that. And for those who were struggling, that volunteer skill building was essential for them to help build up perhaps struggling grades and other circumstances. So I saw technology as a way to start to capture that and bridge that gap. And then once I became a founder of a technology company, I realized quite quickly the gender gap, as I was the only female in the room a lot of the times, and the pressures to even being that female in the room to conform, to kind of doll my look, to go more stereotypical. And I found that if I was experiencing that many girls who have not yet explored the pathway might too. So a lot of my work now focuses on empowering girls in STEM and also shifting the narrative a little bit to see STEM as more of a 21st century skill that all youth should have, rather than necessarily just a career path that if I want to be a developer, that's the only reason I get STEM skills. So that's a little bit of that.
That's incredibly impactful, and it's very true. Ms. Bunchlegal, what inspired you to do what you do?
Well, as research has shown, entrepreneurs come from families and communities of entrepreneurs, and I'm no different. My grandfather was one of the head senior research scientists for U.S. Naval Research and Development, and one of the first researchers on machine-assisted learning, and how that leads to large-scale capacity building. My uncle also invented a microprocessor for robotics that has led to the robots at Disney, and also later stage robotics advancements at a company called Emulabs. I'm very fortunate to have grown up with this, coming from a family of my background. There's not a lot of individuals in these spaces with people like me. And my current work and my work for the past decade has worked in the inclusion space and also as a role model and mentor and serving on boards organizations such as the U.S. Hispanic Heritage Foundation, the Latino Startup Alliance, and representing that 0.5% of Latinos who do receive venture investment, who have received roles in corporate Fortune 100s in the executive role, and within 6% of women in this space. Statistically, I don't exist, and it's very important for me to continue that work, to make sure that there are more opportunities for people like me, that we are bringing this as a foundational base for these emerging markets so that people aren't left out. We do know that this lost opportunity in the U.S. represents a $2.5 trillion economic opportunity that is lost in our community, and 12 million jobs right now that we need to capture for global growth, as well as a 12% GDP loss overall for countries that are not pursuing radical inclusion right now. Moreover, it is critical that we are keeping pace with our communities who may be under-resourced to also learn these skills. There's an easier way to level that playing field, to move toward gender digital parity, goals 9, goals 5, goals 17, and to make sure that we do not result in permanent second-class citizenship. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you all so much. I think one thing that is very, very clear from all of your statements is that all of us care about this issue for different reasons. We're coming at it from different angles. And I do think that too often, this issue of STEM becomes a very flat sort of, you study this to get a job. It's kind of what you were talking about, Kelly. So what advice would all of you have for youth who are kind of interested in STEM, may not really see a place for them in it, beyond just, major in the sciences or mathematics? Because I feel like that's the advice you hear too often, and I think it sometimes makes people feel like they don't actually have a space in this field, whereas all of us came in from very different angles for very different reasons. So in short, my question is, what advice would you give folks who are kind of interested in STEM beyond just major in math or whatever?
So from my perspective, I feel like we often have a problem in computer science where it's this mystical thing. Like, I'm not technical. I'm not a techie. What does that actually mean? And I probably have used that term before myself, but I think that we all, those of us in STEM, those of us who are engineers, those of us who are programmers, have a role in demystifying computer science and not making STEM sound so complicated and scary. One of the tactics that my team employs, whether I'm wearing my Microsoft hat or my personal Melissa hat, is leveraging Hour of Code, for example, and really going out with young people, as young as 4 years old, or even as old as 104, to do Hour of Code. Spend an hour going through and talking about what is computer science. Okay, maybe Hour of Code is the introductory building blocks of learning to code, and maybe you're not going to come out of spending an hour learning computational thinking and start building an app. But I think it's about starting those building blocks of really demystifying computer science and not making it so scary.
I couldn't agree more. And Zach, I know you've done a lot of work to do exactly that. And if there are any messages that have worked really, or strategies that have worked especially well for you?
Sure. So at this point, Code Academy has taught, as you suggested, more than 25 million people around the world. I think one of the critical things in breaking the stereotypes that we've all been talking about is in that understanding that this is a foundational skill of the 21st century, right? The same way people learn language skills, programming and computer science and STEM skills are part of critical thinking in the 21st century. And so understanding, I think as Kelly had suggested, that this isn't just about becoming a software engineer, but instead it's about being an active and engaged 21st century citizen, I think is very, very important. Beyond that, as Melissa suggested, just getting started is really one of the biggest things. Something that we've done a lot at Code Academy is try to work on the language, the presentation, and the accessibility of basic computer science skills, and making sure that what I would say is the classic system of education, which tries to intimidate people away from difficult subjects like computer science, is kind of taken away in favor of a solution that is super accessible and starts by coaching and assisting people through the process instead of intimidating them with its difficulty. So my biggest advice to students that might be considering getting started would be just that, which is get started and dip your toes in and try to find a way of doing so that isn't intimidating and works to help you build up your skills with others.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. And I think this is a natural segue to you, Tracy, because I feel like your organization really does focus on different ways to frame STEM and to steer away from that traditional, Silicon Valley, this is what an engineer looks like sort of thing. So have there been sort of ways of approaching this issue or advice that you would give young people who may be sort of considering going down this path?
So echoing some of the themes that other speakers have already mentioned, I think drawing that connection between the means and the ends of what it is to be coding and what that enables is very important. So one thing about code and things in the digital realm is that it's not always clear what all those building blocks are. So you see a website, you don't necessarily see all the work that went into it, which is different than in the physical world. You can see buildings get built up. You can see bridges get constructed, and you understand the link between doing engineering work and what the outputs are. It's not as clear with software because it is in that digital realm. And so helping people understand the connection between writing these lines of code and what is possible with that technology is really powerful. There is some research that says, this is a little bit of a generalization, but girls are often more motivated by the sort of impact they can have. So a lot of girls will be interested in doing things like medicine or teaching, so they know that there's this tangible effect on improving the world and working with people. Sometimes it's not that clear that software can have that same sort of impact. So it just feels like, oh, you're writing code, you're at a computer, and it's not clear that that has the sort of impact that they want to have, even though in truth, software gives so much scale and leverage to achieving impact. So drawing that connection, I think, is important. And the other part of it around stereotypes and dispelling those misplaced notions of the types of people that can do coding is very important. I think there's a big role of media in this. And so I think movies like The Social Network, which perpetuate this example of the hacker in a hoodie working late at night, are not so helpful. But movies like Hidden Figures are very powerful because they start to showcase different types of people that can be very successful and impactful in this world.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Kelly, I know that you've done a lot of work in empowering people, especially young people. What would you say to young people who are considering STEM careers beyond just, go to school and study science?
Yes. Well, as I said, I didn't start in tech, and so very much to Zach's point actually about the language. I was at a youth leader. I think my first introductory to tech was I was at a youth leadership summit, and we were doing an icebreaker. We had to learn about each other, and my colleague, my partner, was a teen developer, and he said he was a developer and he knew 9 languages. I'm like, oh, what, French, Italian? And he's like, no, development, Python, HTML, code. And so very much to that point, it is a basic skill. And what I would say is 2 things. One, in the next decade, it's estimated that over 65% of the jobs youth will hold aren't even created yet. We don't know what the future is going to hold, but we do know that technology and STEM is going to be a fabric of that. And with that in mind, there's in the next 5 years, over 2 million jobs are going to be made in STEM fields. So there's a great opportunity for young people who, right now, in the face of very high unemployment, can start to chart a path. With that being said, you don't need to necessarily pursue just a STEM path to benefit from those skills. If you're in marketing, knowing how to use HTML and CSS will save you tons of time in doing a marketing website. There are other applications and other careers where basically it's getting into the fabric of most jobs. And so what I would challenge you today is view STEM almost like the 21st century cursive. You don't need to learn calligraphy and go all in, but at least learn how to write a signature and maybe write a few notes, because that's going to serve you and that's going to come up in your career regardless of what field you enter.
I love that. I'm going to remember that. It's fantastic. Ms. Monteschlegel?
So I'm a big advocate of espousing all of the digital economy skill sets and going to where kids are, especially in establishing policy frameworks and infrastructure frameworks for youth skills. So looking at places that youth like to explore and looking at sort of Instagram, Twitter, other social media marketing as a skill set, looking at media skill sets. These are gateway skill sets that lead to more advanced things like coding. These are skill sets that automatically have an endpoint when you're using someone else's technology for what you can do with that technology. And at some point, when someone has refined skills and advanced level skills in these more entry-level places, they're going to look at developing unique and personal solutions. They're going to look at solving their own problems and problems within their communities that aren't being solved by existing solutions. So I think it's really important to go where youth are and whatever people like to explore, to continue that and to get as good at that as they can. And then to pursue programs like Codecademy and digital online learning and look for these groups of support that can bring these educational capacities.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I know that I will be mindful of time, and I want to leave time for questions, both from folks in this room and online, and also give our discussants some time to wrap things up as well. So I have a last question for all of you, a lightning round, and keep it super, super short. One of the things that I feel like we often forget about, especially in these conversations, is also the importance of soft skills. So if you had to pick one sort of quote-unquote soft skill that doesn't have to do with formal education or coding that you think is critical for success in the labor market and especially in STEM fields, what would it be? So one skill, as short as you can.
So I think the word soft skills is this esoteric thing where I think if you ask 10 people what's a soft skill, you're going to get 10 different answers. So I'm probably going to give you a different answer, but
Well, I can define. Well, let's consider it as something you don't learn in school,
Yeah.
and something that doesn't have to do with STEM specifically.
got it. So for me, I don't know if this is a skill or not, but I'd say passion. I think if you've got the right passion, anything is possible. The impossible is possible.
I'd say empathy is one of the more important skills, understanding the people you work with, but in fields like technology where so few people can have an impact on so many, being able to empathize and understand with the people that you're building for.
I would say communication, and in particular written communication, because I think being able to write clearly means that you understand things to an extra degree and you're thinking about communicating to someone else, and so there is that empathy built in as well. And it helps you to explain what work you are doing and what the impact is on others.
I'm going to say communication too, but oral, public speaking communication. You can have the best idea or innovation in the world, you may have created something fantastic, but if you can't articulate that value to others, even your value of yourself, and in a job interview, it's going to be a real challenge. So I think public speaking and communication to articulate your ideas is really important.
I'm going to say negotiations. It's very important that we learn to advocate for ourselves in a strategic way. And we know that people who ask for more get more. Also, with women in STEM leaving, 45% of women in STEM leave within the first 5 years of their career. And this is a really critical number. And we know that this is to do with lack of potentials for advancement, work-life balance. We need to know that we need to advocate for ourselves as passionately and strategically as possible from the start so that we don't run into as many of these challenges later on. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And Carol, I would like to invite you to also answer this question and to give us any thoughts and remarks you might have.
Okay. First of all, soft skills I think are very important for everything. I am really interested to hear what all the panelists say. I keep hearing the word inclusion, but does that word inclusion mean including women and girls, or does that mean including everybody regardless of ability? And I really would like to have some input from the panel about what you personally have done or your organizations have done to reach out to young people with disabilities. And then I have a short PowerPoint because I'm very much a research to practice person to show things that I've worked with, because I go into so I won't show the PowerPoint, but I just want to talk about getting to younger children and girls in the schools before we get to the level where they're out getting employment. But at first I'd like to hear from everybody about what your organizations are involved in as far as outreach.
Great, thank you. And we are running short on time, so be quick and make sure that you have time as well for any other
Because I'd like
remarks.
to start the discussion.
Yeah, we also have Q&A from the audience,
Okay.
so just want to make sure we can fit all of that in.
So from a Mentor Nations perspective, my nonprofit, I would say it's been a bit test and learn in terms of digital literacy with youth with special needs or accessibility challenges. Last summer, one of my volunteers and I visited a Syrian refugee camp, and we went in with this idea of teaching, doing hour code. And we got there and we realized it just wasn't the right solution based on the skill sets and the mobility challenges of the youth. And luckily, I think we were able to adjust on the fly. And I think, if you've got 10 different people sitting there, similar to the soft skill question, and you ask, what's the right way to be diverse, be inclusive, whether you're talking about women, girls, individuals with accessibility needs, I think you have 10 different answers. I've been very proud at Microsoft of the work that we do when it comes to diverse hiring and bringing in individuals with autism and various other types of accessibility needs. I'm also very excited to start working on initiatives to determine, are there opportunities for Microsoft to look at diverse hiring, meaning individuals who might be confined to their homes, and identifying opportunities to bring more connectivity into rural communities and enable work-from-home solutions for individuals who might have mental instability or what have you that might be appropriate for work-from-home solutions. So lots of different, I think, ideas, and I think there's still a test and learn by concept where we've got great ideas but still room to grow.
Okay, I'm not sure if we have time for every panelist to answer this question, so maybe if you want to give, I just want to make sure we have time to hear from you as well.
Okay, thank you. I've been involved in working with young people with disabilities for a long time and have devised digital text with multi-means of accessing information, whether it's on a computer or whether it's in actual text. I think it's really important that we have some understanding and some educational background of young people with disabilities. So when you do outreach, that you make sure that you understand what their limitations are, but not just their limitations, but what they can bring to the table. And that we go from an asset model rather than a deficit model, because I think they have a lot to offer. I know the population that I work with, we've done a lot of social story videos where they create their own videos about their own issues, and it helps them, and this could also help with acculturation. We've done a lot of things as far as teaching them computer skills and getting them to be able to go into the workplace that will be a welcoming place for young people with disabilities. So they don't feel that I'm the odd person out there, but they have a lot to bring. So I think that's something that we really need to keep in mind for everybody. And I also think we need to think outside the box as far as careers. I know my colleague is teaching young people with autism DJing skills, which are an engineering skill for young women and girls. There's coding, there's the Lego Foundation, which brings a lot of things into the classroom, and particularly targeting girls and women. And here's another place where young people with disabilities are very well able to function and enjoy it. So that's just something that I want to put out there, that let's think in terms of asset, and that they have a lot to offer.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And actually that is a really good segue to some of the questions we've been getting from the internet. Thank you all so much. We are about at 5,000 views from around the world, which is kind of incredible. Wish I brushed my hair this morning. We are live through UN Web TV, and I know that we've been getting a lot of shares and tweets and likes, so I really do appreciate that. And one of the questions we got from one of our online viewers, I would love to pose to this panel, which is, and it has to do with your remarks, Carol, and it's, how can we make sure that the STEM industry provides programs and opportunities for marginalized and disadvantaged youth? For example, migrants, youth with disabilities, folks in remote areas, people who aren't able to obtain education, folks who may identify as LGBTQ, etc. So in short, how can we have more structured programs and opportunities for folks who might not be easy to reach through formal channels?
Well, I would say programs like Code Academy and things like that really make things accessible. I would challenge youth that even if you aren't able to go to school to learn some of these skills, one of the advantages of digitalization in our interconnected world is there's so many things online, free YouTube tutorials, programs like Zach's initiatives and things where you can pick up those skills and self-learn if you have the initiative. And with that in mind, they're again emphasizing the amount of jobs that are being created in that field. One thing about digital is there's an ability to have less barriers, I think, when we talk about things like inclusion and things, because you might have someone who's not as mobile, but they can work at home and do coding and other things. It opens up opportunities to move beyond sometimes initial barriers. But it does take the initiative sometimes to learn it on your own.
And I think it's great for us to stand up here and talk about getting online and learning to code, but half of the world's population does not have access to the internet. And if you don't have access to the internet, you probably don't have a device, which means you're probably not going to go out and learn how to code. Maybe you haven't seen a computer before. Hell, maybe you don't even have access to energy. So there are, I think, a lot of wicked problems that we need to think about in addition to empowering underserved communities through technology. Microsoft's Affordable Access Initiative team, the team that I'm a part of, is working on solving this multi-stakeholder approach. It's not just us. And investing in programs that will connect the next billion, the next 4 billion. It's not going to be solved overnight. It's not going to be solved this year. But I think there are a few components, and that's how do we get people connected to the internet? How do we get people connected to power? How do we rethink ways of doing that through innovative technologies such as TV white spaces? How do our teams here sitting, from government work with our regulators in the ICT sector to encourage new regulations around spectrum, to open up spectrum, to enable social entrepreneurs in places like Malawi, in Zambia, in many of our own countries, to figure out how can we rethink connectivity. In my mind, that's the first step. Without access, what are you going to do with your skills, and how are you going to transform those lives through technology?
I want to add something from the industry perspective, which is that a lot of times these tech firms have a very narrow idea of what they're looking for. And so instead of actually focusing on the skills that they want to hire employees for, they're focused on credentials that don't necessarily match up with those skills. So I've been a part of hiring and been in the recruiting process of a number of sort of prominent Silicon Valley companies. And there's a big focus on people who have 4-year university computer science degrees from top-tier institutions, when those may or may not actually match up with the job skills that are needed. And so I think there's starting to be some shift there where companies are being more deliberate about what they're actually looking for in hiring, and also building programs to help onboard people from different backgrounds. So one of my former employers, Pinterest, has been running an apprenticeship program. So kind of going back to an older school model of helping people to transition in with some skills that they have, but helping them to learn skills on the job. A lot of times with these tech firms, they're looking for people who already have the exact skills needed and are ready to start contributing within a couple of days or a couple of weeks and months. With the apprenticeship program that we had at Pinterest, we had a 1-year on-ramp, so people who are coming from boot camps or non-traditional backgrounds could still become productive in that environment.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one thing about the connectivity around the world. Sometimes, most people have access to at least a cell phone, or somebody in the community may have access to a cell phone or a smartphone. So we need to get trained leaders within that community, the educators, whatever. If one person has that, then we have a way to reach other people. And I think it's really important that we train the trainers and look at that as a technology does not have to be up in the sky. We can start with the most basic thing and see how can we maximize that to use it the most, to reach the most people.
Fantastic, thank you so much. I also want to give people in this room a chance to ask a question. All right, we have a couple. Wow. Daniela, how do you think? What do you think we should do?
A gentleman and a woman, a gentleman and a woman.
Perfect.
And we have only 8
Thank
minutes.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Queen Mother Dr. Deloise Blakely. I'm the community mayor of Harlem and the ambassador of Goodwill to Africa. I ran fast because the young people of New Future Foundation asked me to come. And in coming this morning, the concern that they have, how do they forge technology, the technical skills that they may know as master students or undergraduate students that would be able to go for development in developing countries. How do they do that? How do they implement those skills so they are very effective in terms of education? I thank you.
Next question, maybe.
Yeah, let's take a couple questions and then we can have Pamela answer. So, is there a gentleman? Yes.
Yes, I'm Vincenzo Pascale, a dedicated journalist. I have a couple of questions. How corporate, I mean, this is basically for everybody, how corporate America consider sort of education done online? I learned a lot, but I have a PhD and master and so on, so it helped me. But I consider a kid or 18, 19 who doesn't have a formal education but learns through the platform you created. How is it considered when it applies for a job in corporate America? A quick second question for Zach. Congratulations for your extremely powerful fundraising. I try to raise money, but it's extremely hard. Probably you can give me some tips how you get millions from donors. I'm happy when they give me $1,000. Congratulations, everybody.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we're taking two more. There's a young lady in the yellow, yes.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, good morning. I'm Anjali from the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. So, as you may, I'm really impressed by the work of all the young people in this room, and it's truly commendable. I myself has a background in information technology and as a master's in technology management, and have been working with tech for quite some time as well. But eventually I shifted to development work and working with policymaking for young people. That's actually one of the trends that I've been seeing for quite some time now with the Filipino young women, because there are a lot of us in the university who are taking STEM careers, but eventually when we go to the industry, retention has been declining, and I just want to know how the governments or actually the organizations are making sure that young women actually does not only get skills but also stay in the industry and influence and become role models of other young women to take into STEM careers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and one last question. There's a gentleman next to you sitting in the back with the glasses.
Hello? Hello? Should be. Yeah, everybody go there. I'll get to the chair. Hello? So you guys mentioned passion and empathy as keywords to motivating women to get into STEM. However, there's also a lot of pervasive social attitudes like mansplaining, sexual harassment, sexism, exclusion, etc. So you guys have been providing a lot of solutions to push women up. I was wondering, are there practical solutions to pull men down so that they can be more empathetic and pull them down from their egos?
So I want to give panelists an opportunity to answer any of these questions. We have questions about technology and sustainable development, and of course, unforgettable question about how to level the playing field a little bit. Because it is true that often women are told to be more aggressive or this and that, and perhaps the focus should be less on modeling that behavior and, redefining standards maybe.
All right, so I know there were a lot of questions, and I'll take the last one maybe, because I've kind of forgotten what all the other ones were. So maybe you could help me there. But I think we shouldn't put men in a box and women in a box, girls in a box or boys in a box. I think for me, I'm a woman in STEM. I feel like I have opportunities, but I know women who feel like they don't. And I think it's up to us, each of us, even women in STEM, to recognize if we are in a meeting and we identify that someone's being talked over or someone is not maybe feeling as comfortable to speak up, for those of us who might feel more comfortable to stand up and make that happen. Again, I'm more of an outgoing person, so I find it easy to say what I need to say, but I recognize that there are others who do not.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll take the question on applying skills in corporate America. I think one of the biggest issues with alternative forms of education that I think many of us around this table are trying to pursue in one form or another is a reluctance from the employer side to accept alternate credentials. And obviously Tracy talked about this as well, in understanding that a four-year computer science degree isn't the only way. I think one of the things that is proving to start to change that is oftentimes role models that come from backgrounds that are non-traditional. So I think the media has a role to play there in promoting non-traditional role models to help people understand that jobs are accessible to all. And then I think, as Tracy suggested, that Pinterest has done apprenticeship models are becoming more in vogue in the US, and I think that should continue to happen. Countries like Germany with much more advanced apprenticeship models have a lot to teach the US when it comes to understanding alternate forms of education and how to get companies to accept those.
Thank you so much. And unfortunately, we hit our the end of our time here together, but I do hope we'll keep the conversation going. Please keep chatting online, and please do stay in touch, and thank you all again for being here today.
So I would thank again all those who have participated, sponsored, supported, organized, those who are present, all those of you who have engaged, been engaging with us online. All your answers will be answered later on, maybe in writing. And I would like now, since there is another meeting, as just said, taking place, to slowly but surely leave the room. Thank you very much.